So let's talk about wholesaling. Now, you may or may not be familiar with this term. I know a lot of times when people get into real estate investing, if they're really looking to go in there and start a career or go full-time into it, wholesaling is one of the strategies that often pops up. It did for me. Now, in the previous video, I talked about how I went out there and I flipped the property. I made $27,000, but realized, hey, flipping was not for me. But wholesaling was on my radar, and I had a really good opportunity pop up with a colleague of mine where I go out there and learn wholesaling and start wholesaling. But first, let's talk about what wholesaling is. Wholesaling is where people go out there and buy a property, typically off market, by doing direct to consumer marketing, door knocking, mailers, text messages, phone drops, leaving flyers on the doorknob, just ways to go out there and find homeowners, often like distressed homeowners, people that unfortunately they might be falling behind on their payments and close to foreclosure, or they may have a pending bankruptcy coming up, or something has happened in their life and they have to sell the property fast, or it might be an out-of-state landlord that's just gotten beat up and they don't want the property. Wholesaling is actually, a lot of ways, very similar to being a real estate agent. However, wholesalers are not licensed, nor do you need to be licensed to go out there and wholesale. So what a wholesaler does is they market to these properties or these homeowners or landlords, and they put the property under contract. And they'll say, hey, Mr. Homeowner, I'll buy your property for $100,000. And then they're going to write a contract with that person. And then typically they go out there and they take that contract and they go sell it to someone else. And that's where they go sell it to an investor. A lot of times a flipper, they'll go sell it to a flipper, but they'll say, hey, Mr. Flipper, I will sell you this contract for $110,000. Well, they got the property in their contract for $100,000. They sell the contract for $110,000. And that wholesaler makes a $10,000 fee by selling the contract. Now, there's a lot of different variations on wholesaling, but that is just a high-level, simplistic way on how it works. Now, let's talk about the spectrum when it comes to wholesaling. Deal availability. Again, deals are usually hard to find on here, so low deal availability, or they're hard to find. And so that is where this direct-to-consumer marketing comes into play. I'm sure you've seen the billboards or signs on the road that say, "We buy ugly homes." That is a national franchise that helps people wholesale properties or go out there and buy properties directly from distressed homeowners or landlords. So deal availability is low on there and it's hard to find. Time. How much time does it take to go out there and find the property? Well, a lot of times it's high time, a lot of times a high cost to go out there and find these deals. Successful wholesalers often have like a marketing machine, and a lot of times, even a sales force where they're spending time and sometimes, tens of thousands of dollars a month to go out there and find these deals. Now, I mentioned that I had a great opportunity. Well, when I was getting started out here in Denver to invest in real estate, a colleague of mine in Las Vegas, a different real estate market that I had from a previous business, I knew him from a previous business, he wanted to go out there and start taking a lot of his flipping and wholesaling online. And it was the perfect opportunity. This guy is like the poster child of who you want to go be, or many people want to go be when they talk about being a real estate investor or flipping property. It's like literally some of those HGTV shows you've seen, he's been on some of those when it comes to like flipping properties. And this guy flips about 50 properties a year, and he wholesales out the other deals that he can't handle just based on his pipeline and his crews at the time, and he'll wholesale the deals out to other people. So I was helping him go find deals for him to buy and then also sell them to other investors. And he had the crews, he had the capital, he had the skills, he had all the marketing down to go out there and find these properties. However, it was all in the traditional ways of mailers, probate lawyers, and having a very robust network of realtors he worked with, and he wanted to go out there and start doing online advertising. Well, that's where I came into play. I was like, wow, this is an amazing opportunity. I can go out there and learn from this guy and help him, wholesale deals. I can make some money. And then after I learn this, I'll just copy and paste it here to Denver. Well, there is one problem. I hate saying this, but I'll admit it, I got my butt kicked. It was just incredibly hard to do, incredibly competitive, and I was a variable. It wasn't like we were starting from zero. He had everything already up and running, was doing millions, if not tens of millions a year in sales volume just from his current marketing. And so I was a variable on there, and I spent a lot of time and money. And after 6 months and many of tens of thousands of dollars, we got one deal done. We're like, hey, this is just, it's not worth the ROI compared to the other channels you have. So it usually takes a lot of time to get up and running. Now the skill, it takes skill because you have to go out there and not only like find the property, but you have to be fast. If someone says, hey, I'm interested in selling my property, if this is a distressed homeowner, two things are happening. They're probably calling you and 5 other people because they have that stack of postcards on their dinner table. And they're like, hey, I'm calling you and 5 other people and I need to sell this place in 7 days. Well, guess what? That is, you have to be speedy and you have to handle the other competitors of people making offers out there. You get the call and you have to be out that person's property usually the same day within 24 hours to go walk the property, see what condition it's in, and then do a quick walk and talk to figure out what it needs, and often write a contract at the dinner table. When I was out there with my friend in Vegas, that's what we did. A call would come in, we would take it, we'd book it, and I would shadow him. We'd go out there and I'd watch him walk properties, and we'd sit at the person's dinner table and he would write a 3-page contract to put it under contract. So it does take skill. Risk. There is risk involved in here because you have the time and money to go find the properties. And then once you have the property under contract, you have to make sure that you have a buyer or another investor to buy it. And you also have to make sure that the numbers you're estimating for what you're buying it for, the rehab, it's either going to be a flip or a rental. Vast majority of the time, those numbers make sense. So it's a higher risk one. And if you can't get that contract sold or you can't close a contract, well, you're going to lose time and money on there. And you've also not helped out that homeowner who was in a distressed situation. Network, like I said, this usually takes a higher level of network. Capital, nice thing about this is you really don't need capital for it because you are just writing contracts. And this is something that you can do with no capital when it comes to actually acquiring the property via contract. And there are a lot of wholesalers out there. They're out there door knocking and cold calling, which is, a couple bucks a month and some gas money and phone bills to go out there and, potentially drum up a deal. So you can do this with very little capital. Financing you don't need for wholesaling. But keep in mind, this is a business. And I would relate this to being very similar to being a real estate agent because you're out there essentially working for a commission. Now, wholesalers don't call it a commission, but essentially that is what you're doing. This is very important. Make sure you check the laws of where you live. Pretty much every state has different rules and regulations for how it comes to what you can or can't do as a wholesaling. And if you are a real estate agent or some type of licensed real estate professional, you have a higher fiduciary duty than a non-licensed real estate person does. So make sure you check out those rules and make sure you talk with your brokerage or your managing broker to what you can or can't do when it comes to wholesaling for where you're at and what market you're in. Now, to kind of wrap up the story here, I started out flipping, made some money and never flipped a property again, spun my wheels on wholesaling and realized, wow, that's not for me. And after wholesaling, I then transitioned to being a real estate agent because I realized, hey, that was the type of real estate business that fit very well for me. And I'm just sharing that with you because wholesaling and being a real estate agent have a lot of similarities on there. I'm also sharing that with you because I've had tremendous success as a real estate agent. I mean, we've sold well over $250 million worth of properties in just a couple of years. And I had no success wholesaling and very limited success as flipping. So I'm giving you that as some context there for my own investor journey and help you know where I found the sweet spot for me with my skill set and my time.